Welcome to this week's Dream Card judging video here at BOTB. We'd now like to hand over to today's lawyer from Onside Law who'll oversee the proceedings.
My name's George Cottle from Onside Law and I'll be overseeing the judging this morning. Firstly, I can confirm that the competition data has already been sent to the auditing company Assets. I would now like today's judges to introduce themselves and, using the secure link provided, mark on the screen where they think the centre of the ball should be. The group will then come to a final panel decision.
Good morning, my name is Matt Cannon. I'm a senior counter referee and footballer.
My name is Liam Walsh. I'm a retired referee. I'm currently an FA observer and head coach for the Middlesex Referees Academy.
I'm Nigel Hicks. I've been a Supply League match official for the best part of 30 years and I'm an experienced football administrator.
Hi, my name's Renee Hector and I play football for Watford FC Women and I'm a coach for Tottenham Hotspur Foundation.
Good morning, my name is Leo Donnellan. I'm an ex-professional football player, having been with Chelsea, Fulham and Leyton Orient.
Hi, my name is Kieran Fitzgibbon. I've played football for more than 30 years and am now a senior county referee.
Hi, my name is Harry Mendonca. I've been involved in football for over 30 years, firstly as a player and then as a referee.
Good morning, my name's Peter Giorgio and I am a football and futsal referee.
Good morning, my name's Andy Braithwaite and I'm a football referee, mentor and licensed observer.
Judges, please now come to a final panel decision. For your reference, the larger white cross is the calculated average of the 9 individual selections.
Thank you very much, George. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Matt.
Morning.
So we've got quite a tight line up from the player on the left in maroon. Looks to me like he's gone up to make the header and the player in white is just pushing him away to try and unbalance him. And you can just see his two eyes looking straight up above him and slightly to his left. And we have another player on the right here who's not looking at the ball, but he's looking at the confrontation of the two players. But as ever, I shall draw some lines up from this player. You can just see the pupil of that eye, and we've got a very tight line up from all of us, really. She's very, very fine. And then what I personally did is I took a guideline from the angle of this player's face looking up towards the ball. So we can't see his eye at all. We've got just his eyebrow there. And then I'll draw 2 lines up from the same spot, showing Liam's at the bottom and then Kieran's at the top. Kieran, if I can come to you first, there you are, your purple cross is just above the main sort of plume of cluster, I would call it, and I'll put the highlighter over the top of yours. How did you see the challenge and what was happening?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think you've called it almost exactly right. The only thing I thought a little bit differently was I looked at the player in red who's jumping up for the ball, and his two eyes are not looking as though the ball is very close to him. They're looking almost on the same line. They weren't sort of crossing, in my opinion. I also thought his eyes were wide open, so he wasn't imminently going to head the ball. And I guess the player in white was just looking generally, he's pushed into the player, and I don't know whether he's looking at the ball or looking at what's happening, but I felt the player in purple was still on his way up and hadn't quite got the position where he was going to make the ball. I thought he was sort of going a little bit backwards, whether that was because of the push or whether that's because he's stretching to reach the ball. But that's why I placed my cross a little bit higher than everybody else.
Great, thank you. And as we're all in a big cluster, it's really who to say. Liam, you're ever so slightly at the bottom of what I would describe the main cluster. There you are. How have you seen what was happening?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I've worked on, like everybody else, really, judging by the cluster, as you so described, that the guy jumping for the ball, worked on his eye line, his eyes. I felt the ball was just a little bit more imminent due to the fact I felt his arms were a little bit of a clue. They were just at that stage where he was just going to do that final little pull for the ball. And again, in reference to what you said, the green and white player, that it had to be credible. Where I put the cross, it had to be credible that he could see the ball, because I then felt that the 21 red was more so, as you said, looking at the players. Because if you take his eye, his eye line, using his head angle, everything like that, he's more so looking at his teammates' sort of head. If you come up a little bit more, so that there. So I felt he was more, but for me, the ball had to be in his peripheral vision. And that's why I've gone where I've gone.
Yeah, thank you. Ari, yours, the light blue cross there in the middle of all of this. How have you seen this?
Similar as the other colleagues. I felt, but then I still use the player in maroon on the right side, number 21. I can see he's frowning slightly as well. Because he's further away. He could be looking at the general play, but because he's frowning slightly, I still used his eye line and to get to my cross. So I did exactly the same assessment as you did with the opening player that is pushing the player that I believe is going to have the ball, and then did a triangle and decided my center of the ball.
Thank you very much. Rene, there you are, your dark blue cross again, pretty much in the mix of things. There you are. I can find yours. What did you think was happening?
Yeah, again, pretty similar. I think clearly that the player in maroon is trying to head the ball, and he's very nearly at the top of his jump, and he just needs to pull his arms back to make contact with the ball. The player in white is just trying to put him off, give him a nudge slightly. I mainly took my height from the angle of the player in white's head. I felt like he had to be in a credible position to be able to see the ball, and obviously he had the wrinkles at the back of his neck, and I just tried to sort of guess where his eye line may be with the little curve where his eyes would be below his eyebrow, and the same as everybody else, I feel like the number 21 is just looking at the players in the general play, but not, his eye line's a little bit too low to be looking at the ball, in my opinion. So that's my cross there.
Thank you. And Nigel, you're just to the left of Rene's. There you are, your yellow cross, sitting on the corner of the calculated averages we're looking at now. What was your opinion?
Very same as my colleagues, very similar to my colleagues. That I felt that the ball is dropping. The player in white's making light contact with the player in maroon, who's in the air, so it doesn't take much of a touch to move him backwards a little bit. And he's looking at that ball dropping right onto his head, same as everyone. I took my side line, my cross line from the angle of the head of the player in white. I don't think we could do much more than that, really. And that's where I came to. Great.
Thank you very much. Peter, you're next. You're the pink cross. There you are. I'll go and find you in there. There you are, just below a couple of other choices in that magnifier. How did you see this?
The same as everybody else. I like Ari. I used all three players' head angles, and I agree with Ari that the player in 21 is that much further away, so he could be looking at the play or just on top of his colleagues, his teammates' head. So I agree that the player in the maroon on the right and left hand side, if you look at the screen, is favourite for the ball, with the white and green player just making it difficult for him to rise up and head that ball. But if you take 21 away out of the equation, I think Kieran's is also a credible decision as well, where he's put his. So it depends how you look at it, using a two players or all three.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Leo, you're next. You're just above Peters. There you are, your orange cross in the middle there. They're going to find you again. You're just below Andy's. Your thoughts on this?
Hi, Matt. Yeah, I took no notice of the player in purple, the number 21. I just thought he was maybe too far away. The other two players, like my colleagues, I used the player in white. I judged the height of the ball from the angle of his head. And the player in purple who's going to head the ball, I think if you look at his right arm, it's up like that because he's leaning back. And I think when you lean back like that to head the ball, your arm naturally goes up. So I think he's leaning back and he's going to head the ball. And you get a good look with his both his eyes, Matt. So I used the centre of his forehead pretty much and just used the angle of his head and went up in that direction.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And lastly, but not least, Andy, there you are. You're really just next door to Leo's. Have you seen anything else in this, or anything else to add?
Thanks, Matt. Not really in regards to the guy who we've all claimed is going to head the ball, the guy to the left of the picture. I think we're all on the same page there. To me, though, that I have taken something from the guy on the right-hand side, number 21. I do feel that he's looking at the ball, although his eye level is reasonably flattish. So that brings me to believe that the ball is almost at the header's sort of head, if you like. The guy in white, although I didn't draw any lines because I couldn't obviously see his eyeball in my initial calculations, whatever, I did take into view the direction he was looking. And that brings me to the spot where I am there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, we judged a lot in the past with eye lines because that's the way the players of the competition look at this. But, you know, his eye line, I believe, is looking quite low. And as a couple of us said, maybe to the top of this player. And we've judged it all just being above this player's head. I think we can look at this player either looking at the ball or the general direction of the play. And if I drew some lines up from him, from his eye, up to Kieran and down below to Liam's, I'm not sure personally that is makes any of us less or more credible, if you know what I mean. So I'll just leave him without the lines as an onlooker. We are very tight on the lines up from this player, and I think we've all agreed that the player's going to head the ball. Kieran did say he didn't think it was that imminent, and that's why he'd gone a bit higher. And as lead judge, I'm going to remove Kieran because I do think it skews it enough higher up to bring the calculated average a little bit too high. This calculated average here, as you can see, we can see within in the magnifier, there's 5 choices you can actually see of within the tight magnifier, and none of us are putting out the bottom, even with Liam's slightly lower than us. And if I put the magnifier over the top, well, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 choices completely within the magnifier now. And I do think that's a very good tight line. So I would welcome your further thoughts. And I know Peter mentioned about he thought that Kieran's was credible, which I always say that everybody's is credible, but with our judging, and as we've judged in the past, having this tight cluster is very important to getting the right decision at the end of the day. But Liam, what further thoughts do you have?
I'll accept your lead on this, Matt, if I'm honest. Apologies to Kieran. Yeah, I think his decision was credible, but as per the criteria saying, it's pulled it in, even tighter. And as you showed, when you got the actual magnifier over the average and you can see 6 people, I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good for me.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Nigel?
Yeah, I'd echo that. I support your decision, Matt.
Thank you. Renee?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think even though Kieran's was a very credible position, with his in, I think his cross was even slightly popping out at the top of the magnifier. So I'm happy with that tight cluster.
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult when you've got such a tight cluster because anyone who's slightly out of the way is only just slightly out of the way, if that makes sense. Leo?
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I think, the cluster is so tight and Kieran's sort of just out of the circle of it. So, yeah, I think it's better being brought in.
Yeah, and I will come to you, Kieran, because this isn't a vote. But again, obviously value what you've said and anything to add to this.
No, I agree exactly. I think that everybody apart from myself has taken some of the lines from the player either in white or the player in the 21. So I would agree that's the right decision to make.
Great, thank you. Ari?
I agree also.
Thank you. Peter?
Yeah, for the tight cluster, yes, I agree.
And lastly, again, but not least, Andy.
Yes, I agree with that, Matt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So George, with a nice, good debate and very tight judging, I've removed Kieran's choice as it was just slightly above what I would describe as a main cluster, and we are going to judge at the average shown.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. If everyone's happy, please click submit. Thank you, judges. The coordinates selected are 11731191. These coordinates will now be passed to the auditing company assets to calculate the winner of the competition, and they will then inform BOTB. That concludes the judging process. Thank you.